It was he really was my favorite brother. We used to uh, play together when we was kids growing up, and I'd ride his bicycle. And back then they didn't make them like they have them now. I was sort of chubby, and and I'd get on his bicycle and it would bend the wheels, and I'd try to fix it. And he'd tell mom, tell that girl to stay off of my bicycle. And during the summertime, he would take off and we wouldn't even know where he was at. And until later on in his life, he would take off and catch a ride from LA to Bakersfield, and he would work out in the cotton fields. And then when he came home, he would save his money, and he would go and shop and got all of his school clothes. And he did that until he was about 17. And then Lewis went into service, and so he decided that he would go into service too. We were 11 months apart, and I remember with his birthday, he was always getting in trouble. All and my and my grandmother would tell him, say, I'm gonna beat you. Just keep it up. I'm gonna get you gonna get a whooping. And so one day, I don't know what he had did, but he had did something, and my grandmother was gonna whoop him, and so I told him, I said, I told you have to. You're not going. I stood in between them. I said, "You're not going to whoop Smitty no more." And so I stood in between them, and so she said, "Well, you gonna get the whooping?" I said, "No, I'm not." And so I took off running, and 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 Smitty took off running. That looked like I was always protecting him, and he to me he was my favorite brother. Uh, and so when he got himself messed up and he went to prison, well, me and my husband used to take my mother every Sunday after church up to Tehachapi to uh, to see him. When he got come out, what happened? While he was in service, he stayed in there for quite a while, and they sent him to the front line. And he had wrote me a letter. He said, "Sis," he said, "I'm on the front line," and he said, "I have to go back and forth and pick up the wounded or the dead, and they had to pack them in these in a like a train, and they had to take them back and forth to the hospital or either to the morgue or wherever they took him." And so he started going AWL. He couldn't take it, so somebody told him one day that he needed to take whatever this was, this drug. And they told him, so you take this and you be just like walking on flies. It won't bother you no more. So he tried it, and sure enough, it, it didn't bother him anymore. But he became addicted to it. My brother came back home, and so he met a young lady. He got married, and they both were drug addicts. And but my brother never did go back. He after he got out of prison, um, he never did go back. It was I mean, he didn't go back to prison. He stayed at home with us, and and then all of a sudden we went to church. I was down at my sister's house. We went to church, and he went to church with us, and he gave his life to the Lord. by that time my mother had died. And so he asked me, he said, "Can I have Mama's Bible?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Because I'm going to be the next one going home." And I gave it to him. And he, my sister called me one Sunday. She said, Smitty uh, asked me, could he go to church with me on Wednesday night? And I said, well, praise God. I said, and so what had happened while he was here at my mother's funeral, uh, my minister talked with him, and he led him to Christ. And that's when he asked me, could he have the Bible? And I told him, yeah, he could have it. And but I don't think he really went to church that much after they went back to LA. But then one Wednesday night he called and told us, he said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm ready to go to church and get baptized. And he did. And about 5 months later he died. And so I felt good because I know that he had given his life to the Lord. And they had a little girl. Well, she died first, I think. His wife died first. And then my mother took the little girl and she raised her. I know when he was at home before he went to prison, and my mom would always call me and tell me when he was loaded, and I used to take my boys over there every time she'd call me. I'd take my boys and I said, I want you guys to look at him. If you get on them drugs, that's just the way you're gonna act. And
Oh, Benny Ruth, God.
so, but you know, kids are gonna do what they want to do anyway. And so, but that's one thing I always did. Every time my mom said, "Smitty came home last night. You want to come home and bring the boys over and let them see how he act?" And so that's what he'd be shadowboxing. He was a boxer too, and that was one of the things he did before he went in service. He was a boxer, and and he'd be shadowboxing, and he'd tell me that, sis, I know you brought your boys over there to watch me. I said, I sure did, because I sure don't want them to end up like you. I had three boys, and that's and and I thank God that I don't know. Some of them, I think they probably fooled around, but that wasn't a life for them. So all of my boys, they